morning, everybody.
Hello, Euroscola.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Bonjour à tous.
Kalimera. Good morning.
Hello everyone.
So hello everyone.
Good morning.
Bonjour à tous. Nous sommes Maria et
Razvan,
élèves dans un lycée d'enseignement général où règne la devise européenne unie dans la diversité.
Today, we are called to fight in another kind of war, using peace as our weapon, a war against the violation of human rights, against injustice and poverty.
Incarnating the meaning of the word union, all together, we can solve all these problems and move towards a better future.
I would like to take this opportunity to state the great importance of cooperation between us in the European nations, especially in times like this. 3 weeks ago, my hometown was joined the list of European cities attacked by terrorists. As we grieve for the victims, we realized how important a European partnership is. We realized that we should stand together to defeat terrorism. We realized that we are stronger all as one. And we also realized that we Europeans should not give in to the terrorists who seek to destroy our democratic society. And we also realized that we should never, ever surrender. Thank you very much.
Kol nepraradom vilties, net jeigu ir vėl, tik per klaidą netapome čempionais. Thank you!
What do you say about results of voting in France, and in your opinion, how this affected the future of European Union?
Question intéressante et très compliquée.
An interesting and very complicated question indeed. Yes, it's true that today there is a very Eurosceptic climate around the continent. Some of the real Europhobes, they're really sceptical, and France has not actually been able to escape this wave, because when things aren't going well in a country, it's very easy to put the blame on Brussels. And indeed, the vote for the National Front in France, the Front National, is a vote actually which is showing that they reject the institutions of Europe and the idea of the European Union. I just wanted to say, and I saw it throughout the campaign, that there were a number of salaried workers or wage earners who were very sorry about the way in which they saw delocalization affect them, where jobs had actually gone to other countries, including Poland, because wages are lower in Poland. So they were very upset that they were losing their jobs, and they thought it was going because of this delocalization. But in fact, it's not by leaving Europe that you're going to change anything. If we were to leave Europe and we then to reinstall our borders, as the National Front has suggested, I believe that this is actually, being a part of Europe is actually belonging to, signing up to their values, but also being part of a huge market, a market of 350 or 500 million consumers. And so we're not going to do any better. We're not going to do any better by leaving the European Union, having to introduce customs tariffs. So I think Europe is going to have to listen to the citizens as well a little bit, and perhaps change some of their way of working. And some people who say this indeed, and I think that Europe has got to try to bring about some kind of social and fiscal harmonization amongst the 28 member states. I'm not saying that everyone should earn the same amount of money immediately. We shouldn't have a flat salary across the board. That's not impossible. We see that behind this there are many multinationals who don't really care about the individual situation of France, Germany, Luxembourg, Portugal, wherever. Multinational countries are only interested in their own benefits. They're just concerned about their own stakeholders, and they want to earn as much as they can for their shareholders. And so they would rather delocalize, move to the countries which are the cheapest, be it Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, whatever. So we should set joint rules for everyone, which will be in everyone's interest, because what we see happening in France is also happening in other European countries. And that is, I defend the European model. It is at great risk today, and I don't want to see it break up. What is your position on Turkey's request to join the European Union? Well, I think they're off to a bad start. If you look at what's happening and the comments from Mr. Edouard, he seems to be pushing himself further and further away from the European Union. A number of us in Parliament are saying as well that we should be freezing any discussions on pre-accession for Turkey to the EU, because, as I said, the EU is a set of democratic values, respect for minorities, freedom of the press, we're against the death penalty. Erdogan seems to be wanting to hold a referendum to re-establish the death penalty. So the more extreme he becomes, the further away Turkey is from joining the EU. But I think that there's also a responsibility for us to shoulder as well. If Erdogan's in power today, perhaps it's because we were too slow in negotiations. We were getting bogged down in discussions amongst ourselves and whether we should actually accept Turkey or not. And Turkey was also very slow in bringing about the necessary reforms. So there is responsibility on both sides. But if I could send a message out to the Turkish population, I think that the Turkish people do wish to join the European Union. It's a large majority of them would like to join the European Union. But I would say that the more these drastic measures are taken, it's almost a coup d'etat under different guise, and we can see this happening before our eyes. And the more this is the case, the more Turkey distances itself from the EU. And we're seeing more extremist views in Turkey, which is not going to help anyone, not the Turkish population, nor the European Union, nor that zone, which is already in a very difficult position. So I would say that we shouldn't close the door definitively. We should always stretch our hand out to the Turkish government, but we need to see them implementing the right reforms to make sure that they are able to espouse European values.
My question is, what is the biggest flaw of the European Union and what do we need to change?
La force de l'Union européenne, c'est...
The strength of the European Union is that we have got a common space with 28 member states and over 5 million citizens. Sorry, 500 million citizens. Now, we do have a different level of economic development in every country, but we have got the strongest economic growth of the planet, and we have a real concern for sustainable development, ecology, preserving the planet. We also have got a very high level research and development facilities. We are also dealing with a worldwide, a global economy facing global competition. We are able to compete with the USA, China, Brazil. So it shows that you cannot simply close your borders, even if the UK seems to think they can. Do you think that a country which has got some 60 million inhabitants, can they actually compete with China, with Brazil, with the United States? I think they're being a bit naive when they believe that. So we've also got we've got policies for redistributing for investing in other countries as well. And we've got to try and stop any efforts towards unfair competition. We see that there are a number, I've mentioned this before, we see a number of multinationals in Europe. What they're doing is that they're trying to find the ones where they are less socially inclined, where they have lower wages, where they pay less taxes, where they have fewer regulations. And that actually is against the interests of the European citizens, because they are being pitted one against the other. And we have this climate of anger, which is almost a war climate, a warring climate in certain countries. So I think that we as European parliamentarians have got the duty now to implement policies which will give us a level playing field in social and in in fiscal terms. Thank you. If we can do that, we are invincible.
Là, on sera indestructible.
So it is a fact that bureaucracy lingers the regular procedure of migration. So a better system of computerization would definitely assist in ameliorating the problem. But I'd love to ask at this point, why not simplify the whole procedure of migration, though, just a bit with the files of its individual? Thank you.
Alors, effectivement, vous avez vu dans quel contexte.
Indeed, you have seen the context in which we are living today. and I do share your views, you might feel that this is a very complex or a complicated system. Others, those who are against the European Union and those who are against receiving, welcoming the immigrants or refugees, feel that we're too laxist, that we let people come in willy-nilly onto the European territory. I think we've got to find a balance. There's got to be a balance in between these two views. So what would be the idea? The idea is that any refugee, regardless of where they come from, as soon as they come to the European Union territory, that refugee should be allowed to actually apply for political refuge. And we have to look and see whether or not the refugee actually does meet the criteria that we have set, and if they are met, then we should give him the status of a political refugee and he should be able to stay on European territory. But to try and prevent this crisis from being, because you're right, it's difficult for Greece and for Italy. It's a lot for them. So that's why I come back again to the question of solidarity. This is where solidarity comes into play. And this is where we see certain weaknesses. Countries in the north who are far from the Mediterranean, where they're looking elsewhere, they think, oh, that's their problem, let them deal with it. But they're wrong, because it's a problem which is for all of Europe. So the 28 member states have got to show solidarity, and they've got to do their bit to better house and look after these refugees. That would simplify the whole process, and while at the same time enabling us to keep in mind that there are indeed a lot of refugees who should be given political refugee status, and there are others, when you look at the dossiers, that they might not be so clear-cut, because they might not fit the conditions for actually claiming refugee status in Europe. Now, be careful if you say that bureaucracy is too long, too much red tape, because today there are a lot of citizens who actually complain about the opposite. When they saw the terrorist attacks in Belgium, France, even in Germany, after those attacks, they say, well, it's because you're too lax. It's because you're not vigilant enough. You're not being careful about who's coming onto our territory. So it's hard to actually keep everyone happy all the time.
First of all, we began with education. And I think we began with this because it is, I think, the most important subject. So we came up with a few really good ideas, I think, such as educate young people by giving them the chance to going to or in their school or in another place, to get to an interactive space where they would see how it is to live in a big city, where we would have destroyed everything if we do not use renewable energies. Also, we thought of maybe bringing in a day in the year where you would learn a lot about the environment, and where it would be easier for people to get an idea of what it is, how we can work with it, how we can change our life and make everything better. Also, we thought that maybe it would be good if some courses were more about environment, so that pupils and students would get to know what it is, how we have to work with nature, how we can make nature a force for us.
Our first solution was that cyberterrorism should be resolved. Cyberterrorism is cheaper, easier, safer, and more anonymous than traditional terrorism. And that's more attractive for terrorists. Therefore, effective measures against it must be taken. For example, creating a system against cyber attacks that is able to react swiftly upon a sign of cyberterrorism. And in addition to that, developing a safer software and making customers more aware of the need for safer internet use. Secondly, we had it was requested to establish an educational program in schools which will teach students and to recognize acts of terror. Maybe it could be incorporated through the history, all the types of terrorist activities, and be promoted, and people will be informed through the media and political speeches to be more conscious of terrorism. as well as making people aware of the human rights to protect themselves. Now, in a situation that protection is needed, maybe it was suggested that a number of people would volunteer to create a peacekeeping army that would act immediately in case of an attack.
After a lot of discussions, we selected 2 measures that I will introduce you. The first is a kind of exchanging people. I mean, in the European Union, we have a lot of unemployed people, and why not sending those people who have no jobs and who are volunteer to countries that need some help? They could bring knowledge, they could bring new workers and new horizons maybe for those countries. On the other hand, we could host some students from countries which are in difficulties, a kind of Erasmus program, but for countries out of the Europe, to give them knowledge. They will study here and then go back to their countries to apply the knowledge, because we think that knowledge is the base of development and of all the countries. The second measure I wanted to propose is a law, because you know, in Europe we have a lot of multinationals, enterprise companies, and they earn a lot of money, and maybe we could make a law to propose them to give a little percentage of their benefits to invest it in other countries, in countries that are poor, that need some help, and in exchange they will have advantages, like, for example, we thought of a pictogram, a label to show that they help other countries. So these 2 measures might help us to gain advantages, because invest in those countries can bring us recognition, can bring us advantages, like, for example, they can have kind of debts for us. We can create partnership with them, and also bringing knowledge in all the world will make it, in my opinion, a lot better. Thank you.
First point was the establishment of safety. Moreover, the economic gap has to be minimized, as countries of the North have different and richer economies than the countries in South. We propose that it's a must expanding information about the European Union, as well as giving to this more power. In addition to this, we agreed that it's more important to teach all children the English language, as we got to realize here today that the lack of English brought difficulties in communication. Therefore, the European Union needs to contribute to the stability and economic development of many of its neighboring countries, and consequently become a major vector of EU's influence. Thus, we agreed that it should have more clarity in developing relationships. Furthermore, we suggested that the European Union should stop expanding and focus integrating between its members. In conclusion, our common values are what bind the countries of the European Union together. We actively promote those values worldwide. We also need to ensure that these values are safeguarded within Europe. Thank you.
Does Europe have a duty of solidarity? And we have voted yes, it does have, but with restrictions, such as the solidarity is that we will allow the migrants and the refugees in as long as it does not damage the locals and their way of life. So we also would like to impose a bit of restrictions, such as secured border control, to ensure that the people that do come in do not threaten us and do not cause more terror acts. The third point is to the question, how can migrants be harmoniously integrated into European society? We have reached a consensus that it should be special courses for knowledge, that is language, culture, religion, and we have reached an agreement that is just not for refugees, it's also for migrants. So let's say if you're emigrating from Latvia to Finland, you will still get these benefits, not just refugees. So this can be achievable by having local institutions, by employing more teachers, which creates more jobs, and it's also could be done with volunteers. I'm sure plenty of young people would like to meet different culture people and help them learn the ways that they live. But the final thing is that there should be no isolation, no like this part of the city living the locals, this part of the city living the migrants. It should be all mixed in, and they should all live like we live. Thank you.
Regarding youth employment, there were actually plenty of great points, which we successfully narrowed down. The first one had to do with diploma acceptance, meaning that in some countries, foreign diplomas are not accepted. And we believe that it's really important all diplomas from state members of Europe are accepted everywhere, so that youth can find jobs more easily. Second one had to do with academic interconnection, meaning that each country has access to young academicians. There are lucrative job offers which attract more and more teachers, and that would hopefully increase the quality of the education. Third had to do with incentives. We suggested to give incentives to companies so that they could hire younger people. Each government would probably help with that problem, meaning they could fund a percentage of the salaries that would go to young people. And last but not least, there was a point about information. We believe that young students should be better informed when choosing a career path, because they're often called to do so at a very young age. And the EU should make sure that more students have a chance to experience where we are right now. And that's it.